What's happening, guys? Welcome back to the channel and welcome back to the vlog. Today we're going to be talking about the F80 M3 control arm upgrade for our F30s. So this is an upgrade that I've been wanting to do for quite a while. I've been asking a lot of people about it, trying to get their experience with the whole thing, if it's a difficult install. And let me just say right off the bat that if you guys are gonna try and install these yourself, make sure that you either A, have an alignment rack, or you have someone with an alignment rack very, very close by. Or I suggest just towing it to an alignment rack, because you are 110% going to need to realign your vehicle after you do this upgrade. I had my shop Dynamic Auto Tune do the install and the alignment all at once because I didn't really want to deal with any of that. But you guys, in terms of suspension modifications, this by far has been the best that I've done to this car. The springs were great, brought it down a little bit, reduced a little bit of body roll. The strut bar didn't really do that much, but these F80 M3 control arms made a huge difference in the way that this car handles. Let's hop in the car and I'm gonna tell you a little bit more about it. So the F80 M3 control arm has sealed ball joints. They're stronger bushings and they're actually sealed. They're not exposed rubber pieces that are prone to early failure or just going bad sooner. They're also much stronger, so these bushings last longer and they're much more durable. They just maintain their overall rigidity and structure much longer. The next thing that we'll point out is the F80 M3 control arms are noticeably lighter than the F30 control arms. Not that we're gonna be losing major weight, but they're lighter. So that is something that you wanna be considering, especially people who are looking for marginal gains and they're just really trying to dial in everything by maybe just shaving off pounds or whatever. They are in fact lighter. The next thing with the F80 M3 control arms is they are thicker. So that means that they are going to last longer. They are much more rigid. They are much more sturdy. And that's what gives you that kind of F80 M3 planted to the ground feeling when you are steering this car. And then lastly, you guys, the F80 M3 control arms on this car will give you negative camber. I've kind of seen varied results to how much exactly the negative camber is, but I would say like a degree or two somewhere in there of negative camber is kind of what people are looking at when they put these F80 M3 control arms on their F30s. I absolutely love the negative camber. I was used to the wheels just being straight up and down, and once I actually drove the car, I understood what the camber was doing and the biggest differences in these control arms. The handling on this car is so much better. The front end of this car is absolutely planted on the ground. You guys have probably heard me talk a few times about how I'm just not confident in the overall body roll of this car and the steering for the longest time. And I was thinking, oh, maybe it's just because I'm on springs with stock shocks, and I'm sure that that does have something to do with it. But I'll tell you what, I am 75% more confident now that I have these F80 M3 control arms up front. The car feels absolutely planted on the ground. I implore you guys to drive someone who has this modification done to their F30 so you can really feel the difference, because no matter what I tell you here today, it's not going to really give you the actual feeling of driving the car. It's going to be really hard to persuade you guys because this is something that you guys just have to feel. And if you drive an F30 and you've whipped it around corners before, you know what I'm talking about. You know how there's a lot of body roll in these cars, and it's a squishy feeling in those control arms and the stock ones. These F80 M3 control arms are just sturdy, and the car just feels absolutely planted on the ground. I'll tell you right now, I didn't do a lot of research before I did these F80 M3 control arms in this car. I was actually told to do them by a follower on Instagram who had done them to his F30, and then I talked to some other people who had them and found out that they were a good option, but I really didn't dive into what it took to do them and what the different options were and what really you need to buy in order to do it, and the changes in your vehicle in terms of wheel alignment and all that. I didn't really do a whole lot of research. I just knew that I wanted them, so I bought them, and then I knew that I would have my shop do them because of course you have to do an alignment after you get these installed. If you guys are gonna put these on yourself, I'm telling you right now, that's a bad idea unless you have an alignment rack at your house. Because what's gonna happen is your alignment is gonna be completely out of whack, and then you're gonna try and drive to a place that has an alignment rack while your alignment is just trash, and you can do some serious damage. So I highly advise putting these on yourself unless you have an alignment rack in your shop or you're like towing it to an alignment rack. You get the idea. Shout out to Brian over at Keys Motorsports. A few months ago, I believe, he tried to put these on his X-Drive and it destroyed his front axle, and he made a video about it. But these are not for X-Drive. You have to have a rear wheel drive vehicle in order to put these up front in your car. Now, let's talk about the things that are going to change visibly. Your wheel set is going to move forward. Your wheels are actually going to scoot forward just a little bit. Some people, this may be a deal breaker. You may be completely against this, and maybe this is something that you just don't, you know, want to do on your car. I have heard some people buying tension rods that will resolve the issue of the wheel going forward and kind of moving it back. I'm fine with it. I have absolutely no problem with it. The car handles incredibly well, and I don't mind the way that it looks. Also, you guys, something that I want to mention is I was currently running 12mm spacers on the front. I am no longer running those. Reason being is it started to rub. It rubbed when I had the spacers on, and after I put these control arms on, it moved it up a little bit. The spacers being out a little too far, it actually was poking. So the wheel set, you honestly, with these control arms, you get a much better stance, and you no longer need the spacers to make it look a little more beefy up front. The car absolutely looks sick up front, and the fitment is like on point, and I now have 0 spacers. So really, I didn't change anything. I just took off the spacers, put the control arms on, and it looks like a million times better. I think the best way that I've found to explain it to people is, you know, we have our comfort mode and our sport mode, and the steering stiffens when we change to sport mode. Just imagine if you had like one more mode. Like, imagine that you had one more mode, let's call it extreme. Let's call it F80 extreme mode. But let's just pretend that you had F80 extreme mode in your F30, and that's kind of what it feels like. It feels like the steering is a little bit more raw. I can feel the road a little bit more, and it just feels a little bit more stiff. I guess that's like the best way to try and convey what I'm talking about. All right, you guys, so here's an off ramp right here. Go into it at about 50. So the car is just on it. It's just absolutely planted. It feels so good around the corners, you guys. The front end of the car just, it feels so stuck to the road. It's so much better than it was before. Like before, this car just felt so uncomfortable around corners, just very boaty and a lot of body roll, and the front just feels like it's just not going anywhere. So I know that it's really hard to just convey that while I'm in a car driving. There's a lot of good information on Beamer Post about this upgrade and a lot of things that people have spoken about. Some people are all about it, some people are not all about it, and you know, just much like anything in life, everyone's got their own opinions. But I strongly suggest that you guys do your research and look into it. And if you guys aren't happy with the overall handling of your F30, this is definitely one of those things that you're gonna wanna look into, because it just makes the car, the driving experience, that much better. And I really enjoy it. Some people were talking about how they're having rubbing issues. I haven't had any rubbing issues since I've taken off my 12mm spacers. The 12mm spacers caused a little bit of issue up front because it was too far out, and without the spacers, like, it looks absolutely perfect. We're gonna pull over up here and I'm gonna show you guys exactly what it looks like outside of the car. All right, you guys, so like I was saying, you can tell that the front wheel is slightly forward, slightly moved forward than what it used to be. And that is one of the things that will happen if you install these F80 M3 control arms onto your car. However, I have heard that people have also purchased, I believe they're the F80 M3 tension rods, which which actually move it back to where it's supposed to be. I'm gonna look a little more into that, and that might be something that I do down the line. I just have to do a little bit more research to see if that is in fact the case, but you can tell that it is a little bit pushed forward more than what it used to be. Not a big deal, doesn't really change anything, but the biggest and most noticeable thing here is the camber. You can definitely tell the car now carries much more camber than what it used to, which I absolutely love. There you go, you can kind of see how the wheel pokes out a little bit now at the bottom. Just gives it a little bit more of an aggressive stance, but it just makes a huge difference in the handling. This car handles so much better now. It's definitely worth the upgrade. So yeah, I've tried to film this video a couple of times, and I just wanted to make sure that I was kind of putting all of the information out there and showing you guys as much as I could about the upgrade. I know it's tough for me to really show you the car handling outside of the car with me filming and not having another person, but I might be heading to the mountains soon and actually getting footage in the mountains with this car handling on corners to kind of show you like the exterior of what's happening to the car when I'm actually taking turns and corners at high rates of speed. It makes a big difference, and you guys are just gonna kind of have to trust me and do, like I said before, like do your research, look into it, and see if this is like a modification for you. I think there's two parts to this modification. It's an upgrade and it's also preventative. So like the front control arms on the F30, obviously they're the little wishbones they call them, I guess. They're not very strong and they will end up going bad, especially the bushings in the stock F30 control arms. These last much longer and are much stronger. So you're kind of getting a 2-for-1. You're getting the upgrade, and then you're also doing some preventative maintenance, I guess you could say, down the road. You might run into issues with the stock F30 control arms if you're driving the car kind of hard, like I presume some of my audience and myself am. So there are a couple of companies that actually sell the F80 control arms. I'll put a couple of links down in the description so you guys can grab them and look into it. And as I said before, you guys, make sure you do your research. Go on Beamer Post. There's so much knowledge and like good things that you can read about this car in general, and also these F80 M3 control arm upgrades. A lot of people have done it and they've written about it and their experiences, the cons, the pros, and that's kind of what helped me make this video, and also just my general decision when it came to buying these and putting them on my car. But really, I can't say much more about it other than I absolutely love it so far. I've been running them for a couple of days and I can really feel a huge difference. So if that's something that you guys are into, make sure you check it out, and I highly suggest you go for it if you're not really confident with the handling of the car. Stock. It's definitely a big upgrade. Anyways, guys, thank you so much for watching this video. Please do comment down below, like this video, hit that bell notification. Just like that, this video is over. I'm out. Peace.